There we go. Let's see. Let me catch up. All right. What's going on, folks? Ted from Nerd Immersion here. So, yeah, in a surprise move, the folks from Wizards of the Coast released 10 a.m., I think, today, so about 45 or so minutes ago. I didn't know it was coming. It actually kind of is horrible timing because PAX Unplugged is this weekend, which I will be at. So if you're there, by the way, come and say hi. I'm also in the process of working on my deck, as many of you know. I'm actually at like a really good point where I can start like moving forward. Like I'm in the process of laying the joists to then fasten them in so I can put the flooring and start building the walls and stuff. And I literally was just putting my boots on. You can see I'm in full work mode. I've got, a heated sweatshirt on. I was ready to go out and start squaring up joists and fastening them down. And I was like, I got a tweet that was just like, hey, did you see that this is out? So I also did want to take a moment here to just say thank you to Daniel Shea over on Twitter, who's the person who tweeted this to me, who was the first person that stopped or that sent me the message about it. So anyway, I guess the deck will have to wait. I apologize. Sorry, Claire. I'll get to that as soon as I'm done. So, yeah, we have even though the thumbnail on the last Unearthed Arcana video said from Wizards of the Coast Playtest 8, this is what they're officially, I'm going to say canonically calling, Unearthed Arcana Playtest 8. Now, this has what I think is going to be, we're going to read, actually, we're going to open it up. I'll remind you, I think I have a link in the description you should be able to go click on, but the only way to access this is through D&D Beyond. And we'll go ahead and take a look here. It says, this will have the Barbarian, Druid, and Monk. It also presents new spells, revisions to existing spells and weapons, and a revised version of the Ability Score Improvement feat. You also find an updated rules glossary. So, to just real quick before we jump into this, also, Wizards of the Coast is going to be at PAX Unplugged, and they recently announced that on Friday, if you're going to be there, or if you're not going to be there either, they announced that they are doing a 50 Years of Dungeons & Dragons panel. However, that panel will actually be live streamed on the PAX, I believe it's on the PAX Twitch channel. So you can actually watch it even if you're not attending PAX. I'll still be live tweeting it for people who want to follow that instead of going to watch the live stream. I will also be at that panel, so if you want to see me and like hang out afterwards and like chat for a little bit, I'll be there. So anyway, that being said, let's go ahead and dive in. It's only 30 pages. I haven't read it. I just kind of took a brief glance at it to see how long this stream's going to be, since I told you I have stuff going on. But anyway, if we were to go again to D&D Beyond, you're going to want to go to Game or Sources, Unearthed Arcana. You click Playtest 8. It'll take you here. And then you can go here and download the PDF, which we have here. So let's go ahead and see. As always, reminder that this is playtest information. Technically, it stands the reason that this could change again before whatever we see sometime in 2024. But given the fact that these are the last 3 classes that are getting revisions, as far as we know, there may be a couple more like small little tweaks, but we may not ever see any of the other classes again going forward. So, yeah, we'll have plenty of stuff to talk about this weekend at PAX. I'll have plenty of videos to make with friends and stuff while I'm there as well. Let's go ahead and see what goes on. So first up is the Barbarian. Something that I didn't even think needed adjustments, if I'm being frank with you. I thought the Barbarian was pretty good as it stood previously, but they apparently decided that it needs something else. So, design note updates for the Barbarian. Rage now regains 1 expended rage when you finish a short rest. That's a nice quality of life thing. Rage is your whole mechanic. You are hard pressed with your number of rages to be limited to long rest. Now you just get 1 back when you finish a short rest, which is a nice little thing to more or less. 1, it makes short rests a little more useful And then also it's just a beneficial thing there. Brutal Strike, formerly called Brutal Critical, is a new feature that lets you trade the advantage granted by your reckless attack for tactical options. All right, we'll have to check that out. Improved Brutal Strike expands the options at 13 and 17. Okay. Let's see. What else we got going on? Oh, boy. Okay. Nope, we're good. And then Persistent Rage now restores all uses of your rage once per long rest, and the unconscious condition, not incapacitated, shuts off your rage. Okay. Persistent Rage now restores all uses of your rage once per long rest, and the unconscious condition, not incapacitated, shuts off your rage. Okay, I think that makes sense to me, but let's go ahead and take a look. This is all the same. No major changes here. Weapon mastery. Blah, blah, blah. Reckless attack. Okay. Okay, Brutal Strike. Here we go. Oh, okay. Well, thank you, BK Dan. Yeah, I think we're going to see what basically looks to be like the Cunning Strike version we saw, or Cunning, whatever it was, the Rogue ability where they gave you the option to trade in sneak attack dice to give you more options. So we now have Brutal Strike here. If you use Reckless Attack, you can forego advantage on the next attack roll you make on your turn with a strength-based attack. If that attack hits, the target takes an extra 1d10 damage on the of the same type dealt by the weapon or unarmed strike, and you can use one Brutal Strike effect of your choice. You now have the following option. The target is pushed 15 feet away from you. You can then move up to half your speed straight towards the target without provoking attacks of opportunity. Hamstring blow, the target's speed is reduced by 15 feet until the start of your next turn. Wow, okay. So it looks like you are still the enemy is still getting advantage on attack rolls against you, right? Yeah. So basically what you're doing is you're trading your advantage on the attack roll to just straight up do more damage, an extra 1d10 in damage, which that extra 1d10 would double if you managed to still crit on the attack. And what's interesting is Forceful Blow is just a straight up 15-foot push, no saving throw, right? And no size limitation. So this could be used to just knock somebody off a cliff or something like that because there's no saving throw and there's no size limitation. You can then move up to half your movement speed straight towards that target without provoking attacks of opportunity. You can already start to see the amazing uses this can have in tactician situations in a combat, right? There's an enemy, it's up close to one of your allies, let's say your weaker, squishier caster. You hit somebody, boop them back 15 feet, and then you close the distance in to then fight them again. That means you're, potentially putting distance between your ally who may be a little more squishy and this enemy, so you can wail on them. And then even if they do to try to go back and get your ally, you might be able to provoke the attack of opportunity from them as well, and then get another hit. All these opportunities to potentially knock down your enemy. Also, remember, they did change Reckless Attack. You can, when you make your first attack roll on your turn, you can decide to attack recklessly. Doing so gives you advantage on attack rolls using strength until the start of your next turn, but attack rolls have advantage against you. Oh, never mind. Brutal Strike is on your turn. I was excited that maybe you could still benefit from Reckless Attack not on your turn with triggered opportunity attacks, because the new version of Reckless Attack does allow you to maintain that advantage on somebody else's turn with opportunity attacks, but Brutal Strike specifically states when you make the next attack roll on your turn. It would have been cool if this worked on opportunity attacks as well, but that could get probably pretty wonky with what you're able to do. And it is only the next attack roll. So unfortunately, you can't knock somebody back 15 feet and then follow up with another attack and cut their movement speed by 15 feet. That would be really cool to do like a combo move. Maybe it changes as we get further along, but we'll look. Let's see. All right. Relentless Rage. I think that was fine. That didn't change. Okay. Brutal Strike improvement at 13. You get new options. Staggering Blow. The target has disadvantage on the next attack roll it makes, and it can't make opportunity attacks until the start of your next turn. Or Sundering Blow. Your blow leaves an opening in the creature's defense for an ally until the start of your next turn. The next attack roll made by another creature, meaning not you, against the target gains a bonus damage equal to your rage damage, which isn't a lot, right? We've talked about rage damage isn't a crazy amount, but it's allowing somebody else to get the benefit of the rage damage. I don't love Sundering Blow. I could probably leave that. Staggering Blow, it's a nice utility thing, but right now I don't see a reason to not use one of the other two. They seem better, although Staggering Blow does remove opportunity attacks, so that has the potential for, tactical use in combat. All right, Persistent Rage. Now, this one did get a change. When you roll initiative, you regain all uses of your rage. Just flat out get them all back. After you regain uses of rage in this way, you can't do so until you finish a long rest. In addition, your rage is so fierce and now lasts for 10 minutes without you needing to extend it. The rage ends early if you have the unconscious condition, not the incapacitated condition, or don heavy armor. Okay, so nothing too crazy there. And then at 17, Brutal Strike improvement, your extra damage is now 2d10, and you can use 2 different Brutal Strike effects when you use the feature. Wow! That is a really powerful ability. So, I know a lot of people like Brutal Critical, myself included, but it's kind of a tricky situation, right? Because Brutal Critical relies on you to get a critical hit. And depending on how you roll and stuff, critical hits may not come your way that often. So having a whole feature tied around a potentially, very limited percentage chance of happening, I get the concept of changing this. Brutal Strike is now an option that allows you to more consistently deal more damage, but it also removes a little thing that I liked, which was the whole, you could use Reckless Attack to fish for a crit and then do extra damage with Brutal Critical, which they did kind of work well together in that aspect. But in removing the crit or the advantage on the attack from Reckless Attack, you are giving people just the opportunity to flat out consistently deal more damage. So I get it, and it does have the utility, and now at 17, it goes up to 2d10 extra damage, which, again, if you happen to crit on that attack, would be an extra 4d10 damage. And you can use 2 of these features. So you could knock them 15 feet away, and then also hamstring them and knock their movement speed down by 15 feet. So there's a potential to get a lot of tactical benefit there. Granted, that isn't till level 17, but you see my point. And then I don't think anything else really changes, right? Primal Champion remains the same, and their maximum is now 26, so that's actually higher than it was, if I recall. Or maybe that was the same in the last Unearthed Arcana, and I just forgot about it, but right, that's all they said was the main changes. Rage, you now get one back when you finish a short rest. Yeah, okay. I also like that Persistent Rage now at 15, you just get all uses back. So at 15, you have 5 rages. So previously you were getting, I think, 1 back. Now you're getting 5 uses back when you hit level 15 if you roll initiative. And you still get that 1 back when you finish a short rest. So essentially, to me, it doesn't seem like you're ever going to not have rages in a combat. It's going to be one long, hell of a long adventuring day before you run out of rages completely. So that's pretty cool. Can Brutal Strike be used as first attack and effect for second if you have second attack? No, it is written on the next attack roll you make on the turn with a strength-based attack. Hang on. So you could do some weird, funky stuff with a dex-based attack first, I guess. But Reckless Attack is when you make the first attack roll on your turn. And then this says you can forgo advantage on the next attack roll you make. Wait a minute. Hold on. When you make the first attack roll on your turn, you can decide to attack. Oh, it does say strength. Never mind. Doing so gives you attack roll on attacks using strength. I was trying to see if you could do something funky with like a dex attack and a strength attack. to try to like switch it up. But no, the way Brutal Strike is written is it's the next attack roll you make. But I guess you could swing the first time with advantage, and then the next attack roll you could forgo it. So I guess that could work. Yes, Reckless applies to all attacks on your turn, but this is something different. This, I mean, maybe it does, right? Maybe it does work for both. Maybe I'm just reading it wrong, right? You get advantage on attack rolls using strength. If you use Reckless attack, you can forgo advantage on the... Yeah, I guess you could. Okay, yeah, I guess you could use both. Yeah, hang on, If you use Reckless attack, you can forgo advantage on the next attack roll you make on your turn with a strength-based attack. Yeah, so the way I read that is you could. I do think you could do both. You're forgoing advantage on the next attack roll you make with a strength-based attack on the first one, and then the next one would have advantage, but you could forgo that advantage as well. Yeah, so I guess you could do... Wow. Huh. Yeah. No, I think that's interesting. So think about this. So if that works, which I think is the intention, which I think we're all coming to the agreement reading through it, you can use Brutal Strike on... You could do one with advantage, one with a Brutal Strike, or you could use Brutal Strike twice. Now, what's interesting is also this feature at 17 when you can apply 2 on 1 strike. That does also make Staggering and Sundering Blow more useful in that they can be done on like multiple turns, but nothing here says that you can choose one brutal effect strike of your choice. Nothing here says you can't double this up, as far as I can tell. So you could, in theory, swing the first time, like we said, with Forceful Blow, knock him back 15 feet, and then hit him with a second, move up to him, hit him a second time, reduce their speed by 15 feet with your second attack. But if you were at 5th or 17th level and you could apply 2 effects, you, in theory, could do that twice, hit him with multiple hamstring blows, or even if you wanted to at level 9, hit him with 2 hamstring blows, and I guess cut their movement speed by 30 feet and basically just lock them in place. I guess, right? I mean, if I'm... Nowhere does it say you can't apply the same effect more than once on a turn. And nowhere does it say that can't benefit from this, can't be affected by this more than once. Yeah. So, I guess, if you had the movement speed to use, you could knock somebody back 15 feet, move up to them, and knock them back another 15 feet, really giving you the opportunity to knock somebody off a cliff or change the landscape of a battlefield. But also, yeah, you could, I guess, in theory, hit them twice with Hamstring Blow. I mean, if you think about it logistically, right, as a normal humanoid-shaped person, you have 2 hamstrings. If I cut both of your hamstrings, you're probably not moving that much. So I guess that could work. This is really good. Now, I know there's going to be some people that are complaining about the lack of massive numbers when it comes to not having, like, crazy amounts of damage from a brutal critical, but I think this is just a win in every way, because you're getting more reliable damage and then also battlefield control. I'm also really liking this shift. The thing we saw with the Rogue, and now we're seeing with the Barbarian, you're trading in a thing that we didn't even consider as a resource, as a means for doing some other cool thing. So yeah. Yeah, nothing says you can't push more than once. I mean, you push him away, and then you'd have to move to him, and then you could push him again. As far as I can say, nowhere in here does it say once per turn. Now, maybe that's not the intention. Maybe it is the intention. You can only apply one of the effects on them once per turn, which I also could understand, right? That's not unrealistic to do that. However, I don't see why you couldn't based on the wording here, hit them with it twice, like knock them down 30 feet of movement. Yeah, and I agree with what Friendly says here in the chat. In addition, a consistent 1d10 extra damage is better than a potential of a 5% chance at an extra d12, assuming you're using a great axe or something. So yeah, and again, right? People are saying pushing a purple worm away. Yeah, you could. There is no movement limitation to knock somebody 15 feet away from you. So the fact that there's no save, and the fact that there's no size limitation. Remember, you just have to hit them with a strength-based attack. In theory, if you're using a polearm, you could be 10 feet away and knock them 15 feet back. So you could get, even more distance depending on how you want to do this. There's some really clever things you can do with this. So I do think that we're all agreed that it says because you use Reckless Attack, it applies on all your attacks. The way this says, if you use Reckless Attack, you can forgo advantage on the next attack roll. So you've used Reckless Attack. You can decide to attack recklessly. We're going to say, hey, the next one's going to be a Brutal Strike. And then I don't see why you couldn't use the next one. We're going to watch the video that they put out after this, which might give us further clarification. Also, Iduff in the chat points out that technically a thrown weapon is a strength-based attack, so you could hit somebody with a javelin and then knock them back 15 feet. So the potential range of this is even wilder to consider. Okay, so Path of the World Tree. I really didn't like this subclass when it came out. I made that very clear. I didn't like it was okay, but it didn't really do anything for me. Looks like it did get some updates. Vitality of the Tree now provides temporary hit points. In addition, the range give temporary hit points to a character increases to 20 feet at level 10. Branches of the Tree now activates at the start of a creature's turn instead of the end. The range is increased to 30 feet, and the Barbarian can choose to reduce the speed of a teleported creature to 0. Battering Roots now applies its increased range only during your turn and only for weapons with specific properties. The feature now clarifies you can potentially use 2 masteries in 1 attack. And Travel Along the Tree has been redesigned to allow you to teleport yourself while your rage is active, as well as teleport yourself and your allies a greater distance once per rage. Okay. So, Vitality of the Tree. When you activate your rage, you gain a number of temporary hit points equal to your Barbarian level. Okay. Life-Giving Force. At the start of each of your turns while your rage is active, you can choose another creature within 10 feet of yourself to give temporary hit points to. To determine the number of temporary hit points, roll a number of d6s equal to your rage damage bonus and add them together. If any of these temporary hit points remain when your rage ends, they vanish. Okay, so you get some temp HP and you give some to an ally. Branches of the Tree. While your rage is active, whenever a creature you can see starts its turn within 30 feet of you, you can use your reaction to summon a spectral branch of the world tree around them. The target must succeed on a strength saving throw or be teleported to an unoccupied space you can see within 5 feet of yourself or in the nearest unoccupied space you can see. The space the target teleports to must be on a surface or liquid that can support it, otherwise the target doesn't teleport. After the target teleports, you can reduce its speed to 0 until the start of its current turn, or the end of its current turn, I'm sorry. So, yeah. So a creature starts its turn within 30 feet of you. You can use your reaction to teleport them. 30 feet of you, yeah. Strength saving throw. Be teleported to an unoccupied space within 5 feet of yourself or its nearest unoccupied space. So you're basically pulling somebody towards you. And it's whenever they start their turn within 30 feet of you, you can teleport them as a reaction. So that's nice. It is a consistent reaction use. So this could possibly pull an ally closer to you. It doesn't say that they can choose to fail the saving throw, which I feel like is a thing you should include because it might be useful for moving your allies around. I think this is written more in a way to be an offensive thing, to pull an enemy closer to you. But either way. And then after the target teleports, you can reduce its speed to 0. So you can lock it in place. Pulse an enemy closer to you, drop it to 0. It can't go after anybody else. All right, Battering Roots. Tendrils of the World Tree extend from your melee weapons during your turn while you wield the melee weapon with the heavier versatile property. Your reach with that weapon increases by 10 feet. Reminder that it increases by 10 feet, so if it already has 10 feet reach, it's now 20-foot reach. When you hit this with this weapon, you can activate the push or topple property in addition to any other mastery property you are using with that weapon. And then travel along the tree. You can briefly travel along the world tree when you activate your rage, and as a bonus action while it's active, you can teleport up to 60 feet to an unoccupied space you can see. In addition, when you teleport using this feature, you can bring up to 6 willing creatures who are within 10 feet of yourself, and the range you can teleport increases to 500 feet. Each creature teleports to an unoccupied space within 10 feet of you. You can teleport other creatures with you only once per rage. It's good, but it just is worded so clunkily. Clunkily is probably not a word, but either way. Well, it's supposed to be Norse mythology based, right? It's the world tree. That's the whole thing. But so you can, when you activate your rage, which is a bonus action, and then every turn thereafter as a bonus action, you can teleport 60 feet. That's great for a barbarian to be able to zip around the battlefield. That's useful. And then, like, you can also bring up to 6 people with you. As long as they're within 10 feet of you, you can port everybody 500 feet. It's just a weird wording, but it is nice that it allows you, you could potentially arrange to, yeah, you don't have to see where you're going either. So you can just teleport you and up to 6 other people. So a total of you and 6 others up to 500 feet, which is essentially a mass group dimension door as a bonus action once per rage, which isn't bad. And especially at 14, you've got 5 rages, and when you hit 15, you can get 5 back. So there's some benefit there. Let's say, okay, here we go. Thank you. The 2024 Player's Handbook will clarify that any creature can voluntarily fail a saving throw. Thank you for pointing that out, Michael. I missed that. But yes, okay, so that's just a thing going forward. It won't need to be listed by a feature in 2024. Any creature can choose to fail a saving throw if they wish, which makes sense why it's not present here, and then that's just a good thing we'll know going forward. Just a Dragoon of Kiri. Just a reminder, the last UA did say that any creature can choose to fail a saving throw. Yeah, they did put it in here, so thank you again. That is a useful thing to point out. I appreciate it. All right, next up. Oh, no other barbarians. So we're going to assume that every other barbarian that we received thus far was good enough. Only Path of the World Tree needed updates, I guess. Which I agree. It's better than it was. I still don't really... I could leave this here. I don't love it. Base barbarian increases, though. Solid. All right. On to page 6 or 7 here. We're on to the Druid. I thought Druid was good. I thought Druid was good, too, but I guess we'll see. Okay. Design update for the Druid. Wild Shape now allows the Druid to know more beast forms and gives temporary hit points to the Druid. In addition, the beast form no longer retains the Druid's species traits. I feel like this is just what I suggested originally, but all right. Let's see. Wild Shape. Okay, this all looks to be the same, right? Magician, Warden. Wild Companion, you can use Find Familiar. All right, Wild Shape. The creature statistics section of the 2024 Player's Handbook will include more beast options than the 2014 book contains. Okay, so we're getting more more beasts in the 2024 Player's Handbook. That's a good thing. No, we didn't watch the video yet. Wild Shape. Okay, so everybody gets to change as a bonus action now. As a bonus, maybe that was last time and I just don't remember. As a bonus action, you could transform into a beast. You stay in that form for a number of hours equal to half your druid level until you use Wild Shape again. Okay. You know a number of forms for this feature equal to 2 plus half your druid level rounded up. Chosen from among the beast stat blocks in the player's handbook that have a maximum challenge rating of 1/4 and lack of fly speed. Rather than choosing, you may start with a riding horse, spider, and wolf. Whenever you finish a long rest, you can replace one of your known forms with another eligible form. When you gain certain druid levels, the maximum challenge rating for your forms increases as shown in the beast shapes table below. In addition, starting at 8, you can adopt a form that has a fly speed. You choose a new form. You may look in the monster manual or elsewhere for eligible beasts. Here's the thing, up to challenge rating 1 at level 8 with a fly speed. You can use Wild Shape twice. You get them back when you finish a short rest, or 1 when you finish a short rest, and all when you finish a long rest. You gain additional uses when you reach certain Druid levels, as shown in the Wild Shape column on the Druid table. Okay, so if we look, oh, okay, we get up to 4 Wild Shapes now at level 17. I think that was there, but either way. Okay. While transformed, you gain game statistic. Your game statistics are based on the statistics of the beast. Intelligence, wisdom, and charisma score class features. You retain your hit dice, hit points, intelligence, wisdom, charisma scores, class features, languages, and feats. You also retain your skill and saving throw proficiencies and use your proficiency bonus in addition to gaining those of the creatures. If the creature has the same proficiency bonus as you and the bonus in its stat block is higher than yours, use the creature's bonus instead of yours. Interesting. If the creature has legendary or rare actions, you don't get them. Okay, so listen to that. You retain your saving throws and skill and saving throw proficiencies in addition to gaining those of the creature. So if they have proficiency in a saving throw or a skill you don't have, you get them. And if it has the same proficiency bonus as you and the bonus in its stat block is higher than yours, you get its bonus instead. So that's a benefit, right? When you assume wild shape form, you gain a number of temporary hit points equal to your druid level. So you still keep your HP. This is exactly what I suggested. I just want to point that out, that you get temporary hit points if you turn into an animal, and like the moon druid gets more. I'm hoping that's the case. You can't cast spells, but transforming doesn't break your concentration on a spell you've already cast. Okay. And your ability to handle objects is determined by the form's limbs rather than your own. In addition, you can choose whether your equipment falls to the ground and blah, blah, blah. Okay. So, looking at that, you no longer retain the druid's species traits. So, oh, I get it now. I see what you're saying. So, like, if you have dark vision, you don't have dark vision anymore. If you have fire resistance, you don't have fire resistance anymore. Huh, that's a nerf. That was kind of a nice thing to have, right? So you could have dark vision and whatever form you're in now has it. But I get it, though, right? Like, you're still retaining your feats, which is nice, right? Your feats, your skill proficiencies, stuff like that. But you just don't get to carry over resistances, which technically, right, the animal's not fire resistant. And I don't think the original druids got that either, but... All right, let's keep going. I think this is all pretty much the same. Wild Resurgence at 5th level. If you have no uses of Wild Shape left, you can give yourself 1 use by expending a spell slot. In addition, you can expend 1 use of Wild Shape to give yourself a level 1 spell slot. Kind of like a sorcery points for a sorcerer, right? Moving on. This all looks to be pretty much the same. All right. Circle of the Moon. Circle spells is a new feature that provides, finally, spells that you will always have prepared. Oh, and can cast in Wild Shape form. Okay. Circle forms, formerly combat wild shapes, has been streamlined to determine your AC and number of hit points gained. Improved circle forms allows you to make 2 lunar swipe attacks as an action, as well as add your wisdom modifier to your constitution saving throws. And then lunar form now also improves lunar swipe. All right, let's read this. Okay. Circle spells. When you reach a druid level specified in the Circle of the Moon spells table, you thereafter always have those spells prepared. In addition, you can cast the spells from this feature while you are in Wild Shape form. So normally, it is... Where does it... Do you get the ability to cast in Wild Shape form? Do you ever get that now? When you're a druid, cantrip, that's no. Beast spells while you're using... So at 18... you can cast while in Wild Shape. Now, we can cast the following spells while in Wild Shape as a Moon Druid just as soon as we hit that level. Cure Wounds, Moonbeam, and Starry Wisp, which is a new spell introduced in this document. Vampiric Touch at 5th level. Font of Moonlight, which is a new spell contained, or Fount of Moonlight, contained in this. And then Dawn at 9th level. So flat out, we hit 3rd level. When we get our Circle of the Moon, we can now cast Cure Wounds, Moonbeam, and the Starry Wisp spell. Vampiric Touch as a Moon Druid is pretty useful to just keep those hit points up. Remember, you're keeping your hit points as the Druid, but now you can heal while hitting and concentrate on this. This is pretty pretty crazy. So I'm excited to, I like that a lot. That's pretty cool. And then again, we'll have to see what these new spells are. All right, Circle Forms. You have learned ancient techniques that allow you to channel lunar magic when you assume wild shape, granting you the following benefits. At 3, the maximum challenge rating for your form equals your druid level divided by 3 rounded down. Your AC equals 13 plus your wisdom modifier until you leave the form. That's pretty good. If you have a 20 wisdom, your stats, you know, if you happen to have one through rolling stats or what have you at level 3, which again is unlikely, but let's say you do, you now have an AC of 18 while in animal, you know, wild shape form, which is pretty nuts to consider, right? That's better than probably any animal or beast in any of the forms you could take. And you know what? It might even be better if your wisdom's only a 14, right? Starting with a 15 AC base, pretty solid. And then your temporary hit points 3 times your druid level. Okay, so this is what I suggested. You want to give them, so this doesn't give you an infinite pool of hit points like you had previously taking on the animal form like you used to have. But it is when you turn into a wild shape, you're still getting temporary hit points. You get temporary hit points equal to your druid level all the time, which is a nice benefit for as an oh shit button for the base druid. And the Circle of the Moon druid now gets 3 times their druid level and temporary hit points. That's a decent amount of things to soak up damage. And it still kind of balances out a little bit the unkillableness of moon druids at high levels. So I like that. That's good. I think that's really useful. And the armor class benefit of 13 plus your wisdom modifier is a really nice thing, which means it allows you to invest in your wisdom, one of those things that you do get to retain when you wild shape, but it also boosts the animal's AC. You're not reliant on their AC, which, let's be honest, at low levels, their AC could be like 13, and it's better for you to stay in druid form to have a higher AC with your shield, which now it could be just better overall, which is great. All right. Improved circle forms at 6, Lunar Radiance. Each of your attacks in wild shape can deal its normal damage or radiant damage, giving you an opportunity to overcome damage resistance. And increased toughness, you can add your wisdom modifier to your constitution saving throws. Now, normally you'd say, well, that's not super important. But remember, you can now cast these spells while in Circle of the Moon form and maintain concentration. So you're now adding your wisdom modifier to your constitution saving throws, potentially allowing you to maintain concentration on spells even longer. Because remember, your constitution is going to be the animal's constitution, but you're adding your wisdom modifier to that saving throw, now allowing you to potentially keep concentration up, which I like. Moonlight Step at 10th level is a bonus action. You teleport up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space. You have advantage on the next attack roll you make. You can use this feature wisdom modifier times per long rest. You also regain uses. You can also regain uses by expending a spell slot of level 2 or higher, so just giving you a bonus action teleport. And then Lunar Form at 14, the power of the moon suffuses you. Each of your attacks in wild shape now deals an extra d10 radiant damage on a hit. And Shared Moonlight, whenever you use Moonlight Step, you can also teleport 1 willing creature, and they come with you for that 30 feet. I'm down. I'm down for this. Moon Druid, you're doing well. And we gotta check out if what the changes to the spells are, see if there's anything different. Barbarian is a hit. I still don't love the subclass, but either way, Druid improvements and Moon Druid also improvements. All right. The big one, the Monk. Let's see what happens. It very famously did not hit last time. Let's see if that changes. Okay. Design updates for the Monk. Martial Arts sees the return of Monk weapons, and the Martial Arts die applies to both unarmed strikes and Monk weapons. It does increase up to a D12 now. Discipline points here do go up to 20, and I think the unarmed movement's pretty much the same. Bonus unarmed strike is no longer tied to the action, attack action, which is nice. Dexterous attacks now allows you to use dexterity modifier in place of your strength modifier when setting the save throw DC of the grapple and push options of your unarmed strikes. Okay. Weapon mastery is cut. Whoa. Oh, man. No weapon mastery for the monk. Damn. Okay. That's kind of shitty, if I'm being honest, but all right. Monk's Discipline, formerly Martial Discipline, options have been redesigned to have options that don't require spending discipline points. That's big. Not everything for the entire class and the subclasses should be tied to discipline points. Uncanny Metabolism, formerly Heightened Metabolism, moves to level 2 and now regains discipline points when you roll initiative, as well as regaining a number of hit points. Okay. That could be huge. Deflect attacks. Yes! I suggested this one too! Deflect attacks, formerly deflect missiles, now also works against melee attacks. So much better. So much better. Oh my god. That is huge. Okay? Normally, you could only knock back missiles. Why couldn't you deflect a punch? If you can knock a missile out of the sky, why can't you knock a punch away from you? So much better. Oh my god. Okay, let's keep going. Stunning Strike now deals force damage if the creature succeeds on the saving throw. So you're now dealing damage even if they succeed on your Stunning Strike. That's pretty nice. I like that. Heightened Discipline is a new feature that increases the effect of Flurry of Blows, Patient Defense, and Step of the Wind. Didn't even think it needed that, but that's great. Self-Restoration now allows you to remove some conditions at the end of your turn. Deflect Energy now also works against melee attacks. You can be deflecting like Chill Touches or Vampiric Touches, whatever, no problem. Superior Defense can now be activated at the start of your turn instead of on a bonus action. Perfect Discipline, formerly Perfect Self, now gives you expended discipline points if you have 3 or less. And Body and Mind is now a level 20 feature. The only thing that could change this and make it even better is if I scroll down and the monk now has a D10 hit die. I would lose my shit if that was my only other change I asked them to make. I'm not thinking it's there. Let's find out. All right, it's still a D8. Okay. All right. It's still a D8. That's okay. Let's see. Okay, this all looks the same. We're going to have to go through the whole thing. All right. Martial Arts. Okay. Gives you mastery over your unarmed strike and monk weapons, which are simple weapons, simple melee weapons, and martial weapons with the light property. Okay, keep that in mind. Monk weapons are simple weapons, so all simple weapons, and martial weapons with the light property. So I think that means scimitars, that means short swords, stuff like that. Okay. You gain the following benefits when wielding when you're unarmed or wielding only monk weapons and aren't wearing armor or a shield. You can make an unarmed strike as a bonus action. Listen to that again. Okay. Oh, hand crossbows. Yes, you can dual hand crossbow wield as a monk now because they're a martial weapon with the light property. Okay. Very cool. Now, you gain the following benefits when you are unarmed, no weapons, or wielding monk weapons. You can make an unarmed strike as a bonus action, period. Not tied to the attack action. You can just do that, right? You could action dodge and still make a bonus action punch. Fully bonus action unarmed strike is just always on. Not tied to anything specific. Dexterous attacks. You can use dexterity instead of strength for the attack and damage rolls of your unarmed strikes and monk weapons, in case that comes up. In addition, when you choose the grapple or shove option, you can use your dexterity modifier instead of strength to determine the saving throw DC. We're going to have to go check grapple in the rules glossary again to remind how that works with grapple and shove, because they changed it. It is a DC now, but now you can force it to use your dexterity instead of strength, which is nice. And martial arts die, you can roll a d6 in place of the normal damage die of your unarmed strikes or monk weapons. This die changes as you gain monk levels, as shown in the martial arts table. So you're starting at a d6, and you go all the way up to a d12. Okay? Unarmored defense, 10 plus dex and wisdom, that's the same. Monk's discipline. Okay, you get these discipline points. You start knowing 3 features: flurry of blows, patient defense, step of the wind. When you spend a discipline point, it is unavailable until you finish a short rest or a long rest, at which point you gain them all back. Some of the features use a DC. It's based off your wisdom modifier. Flurry of blows. You can spend 1 discipline point to make 2 unarmed strikes as a bonus action. Also worth noting, in case it comes up, because I can't remember how it was written, Flurry of blows is now just to make 2 unarmed strikes as a bonus action. You can do whatever you want with your action. Flurry of blows is 2 punches as a bonus action. Specifically unarmed strikes, not monk weapons. Patient defense, you take the disengage action as a bonus action. Hold on. You take the disengage action as a bonus action, period. No usage of key, or discipline points, I'm sorry. Alternatively, you can spend 1 discipline point to dash and disengage at the same time. I think they changed that in the last one. Good update here. Okay, so you can just disengage as a bonus action all the time, which is a thing a bard can, or a rogue can do, so that's fine. But 1 point gives you disengage and dodge at the same time. And then Step of the Wind, free dash as a bonus action, no discipline point usage. Alternatively, you can spend a discipline point to get both disengage and dash, and double your jump distance. That is so good. Wow, is that useful? Think about that, okay? You can disengage as a bonus action or dash as a bonus action. It's fundamentally the same as a rogue with cunning action. But now, if you want to get a boosted version of that, it costs a discipline point. So you're not just spending discipline points constantly, and they changed that to make the features more useful, which I really, really like. So 1 point gets you disengage and dodge, whereas disengage is free. 1 point gets you disengage and dash, or dash is free. Very, very simple, very clean, nicely done. Uncanny Metabolism, a new 2nd level feature. When you roll initiative, you get all expended discipline points back. When you do so, roll your martial arts die and regain a number of hit points equal to your monk level plus the number rolled once per long rest. Now, mind you, you're getting this at level 2. At level 2, you only have 2 discipline points, but now when you roll initiative and don't have them from level 2 onward, you can just get them all back. Reminder, you still get them all back on a short or long rest, but if you need them back in a pinch and you're into a fight and you're down, you can just get them all back, and you get healing equal to your martial arts die plus your monk level. So that's good healing, and it's triggered on an initiative roll, not on a reaction or anything like that. So you can still get them back on a short rest, and then once per long rest, you can get just pop them back real quick. That's great, because I've been in fights where we didn't have time have played 2 monks to level 15. I've talked about this before. Where you get into a fight and you're down to 3 key points at the time, and you unexpectedly get into another fight and you're hamstrung by it. I would love to be boop, got them all back, let's go, and a quick heal at the same time. Very nice. Very nice. All discipline points and martial arts die plus monk level. Very cool. Unarmored movement, your speed increases, that's the same. Deflect attacks, mwah, chef kiss. What a wonderful thing. You can use your reaction to deflect melee and ranged attacks that deal bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing damage. When you do so, the total damage you take from the attack is reduced by a d10 plus your... Hold on, it could get better. It could get exactly what I suggested. Let's find out. Reduced by a d10 plus your dexterity modifier plus your monk level. Are they doing it? If you reduce the damage to 0, you can spend 1 discipline point to redirect some of the attack's force. If you do, choose a creature within 5 feet if it was a melee attack or 60 feet if it was ranged. That creature must succeed on a dexterity saving throw or take damage equal to 2 rolls of your martial arts die plus your dexterity modifier. Oh my god, it's not exactly what I wanted, but it's there. It's enough. Some big, giant comes to swinging at you with a greatsword, and you can just direct that attack away, and if there's another creature nearby, you can be like, nope, hit them instead. And again, it's a saving throw, which is a bummer, because it used to just be you would make an attack roll, but it's not just limited. Well, one, is it going to do damage half on a success? Succeed on a dexterity saving throw. Oh, no. So it's only if they fail. But either way, it's not just throwing the thing back, which was really cool. It was a cool feature where you could make an attack and throw it back. Now it's you can choose to spend a discipline point. So also, to point it out for resiliency-wise, it is just your reaction to deflect it. It doesn't cost anything to use the reaction other than your reaction to deflect the attack. If you want to send it back, that's the discipline point usage. If it's within 60 feet for a ranged attack, you can kind of just try to knock it towards somebody else. They must make a dexterity saving throw or take damage equal to 2 rolls of your martial arts die plus your dexterity modifier. So if they succeed on the saving throw, nothing happens. They don't take any damage. As long as they aren't behind total cover. Okay, and it's choose a creature within 5 feet of... Wait a minute. If you do so, choose a creature within 5 feet of you if the attack was a melee attack, or 60 feet. So you could basically do a stop hitting yourself, where like somebody goes to punch you and you like turn it back around and hit them with it. Because it's a creature within 5 feet of you. It doesn't specify that it's a different creature. So you can hit them with their own attack. Just the same concept of throwing the ranged weapon back at the person who shot it to you. I like it a lot. That's very cool. It also, I do like that it says you redirect some of the attack's force. Somebody brought up in chat, right? They hit you with a 2d6 and then you hit them back with a d8. Fair, but I guess you're deadening some of the force by deflecting it, so you're not sending the full amount back, that's fine. It's badass to be able to do that. Like, you just, not only did you add an ability to get all of your discipline points back and give them a heal, give them a ton of versatility with the monk's discipline changes, the addition of using hand crossbows and light weapons. You now gave them another means to survive by allowing them to deflect. And honestly, you're going to be at, it's going to be like decision paralysis, honestly, right? Should I deflect this ranged attack? Or if the big guy comes in and tries to hit me, should I save it for the melee? Pretty cool. Oh, I guess you're right. My mistake, I had it backwards. But yeah, you get 2 rolls of your martial arts die. So in theory, at level 3, they could try to hit you with a d8, and you could hit them with 2d6, plus your dexterity modifier. So you could do more. So I don't know. It doesn't fit the exact power fantasy, but you could actually deal more damage to them, which is kind of cool. All right, ability scores. Slow fall's the same, extra attack. All right, let's see the changes to Stunning Strike. Once per turn, when you hit a creature with a monk weapon... So now, because I think it used to be, you had to, I think it was in the last one, you had to declare it beforehand, so like you could waste it. So now it's once per turn, when you hit a creature with a monk weapon or an unarmed strike, you can spend 1 discipline point to attempt a stunning strike. It is still limited to once per turn, though. The target must make a Constitution saving throw. On a failed save, the target has the stun condition until the start of your next turn. It's a reasonable change. I think we can all agree. You're only allowed to do it once per turn, so you can't stun 4 people, right? By using Flurry of Blows. Stun the entire enemy team, which was awesome, by the way. I will absolutely agree. I used to do it. A lot of fun. It's still only 1 point. And it used to be stunned until the end of your next turn, which meant that you could basically perpetually stun them forever. I mean, you technically still can if you hit them and then the start of your next turn hit them again, but it just gives you, potentially more. You have to keep expending them rather than like if I kill them on this turn, I don't have to expend a discipline point. However, on a successful save, the target takes force damage equal to a roll of your martial arts die plus your wisdom modifier. So, not a ton of damage, but you are still doing your unarmed strike damage anyway. And then you get to do a little bit of extra force damage on top, which makes sense, right? You're hitting somebody hard enough to stun them. And if they succeed on the saving throw to resist the stun, it's just like nothing happened. They just took the punch. So I like that it's adding a little force damage to give them a little more I don't know, like a little consolation prize for you, right? So force damage equal to the roll of your martial arts die plus your wisdom modifier. Not bad, right? Let's see. Oh, yeah, and it is once per turn when you hit a creature with a monk weapon. Somebody pointed out in the chat, you can still stunning strike on an opportunity attack. It's not once per on your turn, it's once per turn. So you can still hit somebody on your turn and then hit somebody on, an opportunity attack, and that will allow you to stunning strike there as well, which is nice. Okay, empowered strikes at 6. You can do force damage or normal damage, evasion there. Acrobatic movement at 9. You can gain the ability to move along vertical surfaces and across liquid on your turn without falling during the movement. Heightened discipline at 10. All right, this is the new feature that improves what we already had. Okay? You have pushed your body and mind to new levels. Your Flurry of Blows, Patient Defense, and Step of the Wind gain the following benefits. Flurry of Blows. You can spend 1 discipline point to use Flurry of Blows and make 3 unarmed strikes instead of 2. Okay. Wait. It's not an additional cost. Flurry of Blows, you could just now at level 10 do 3 punches. So you could do 5 attacks. Sorry, fighters. At level 10, as a monk, which at level 10 you are dealing a d8 damage, you could do 5 attacks with heightened discipline. 2 main attacks, 5 Flurry of Blows attacks. That's pretty cool. Did I skip the level 6 feature? No. You can choose to deal force damage. No, I said that. We talked about with your unarmed strike. It's because they got rid of this concept of like they're now magical attacks instead of that being a thing. It's like you could choose to deal force instead of normal damage. Patient defense. When you spend a discipline point to use patient defense, you gain a number of temporary hit points equal to 2 rolls of your martial arts die. So remember, patient defense is normally disengage. Now it's disengage and dodge, and then also 2 rolls of your martial arts die worth of temporary hit points. That's just great. And again, these just stack on top of, and we haven't even gotten to subclasses yet. We're just on base monk at this point. And then Step of the Wind. When you spend a discipline point, use Step of the Wind, which is now again dash and disengage. You can choose a willing creature within 5 feet of you that is large or smaller. You move that creature with you until the end of your next turn. That creature's movement doesn't provoke attacks of opportunity. Wow, the combat benefits of that. Oh, wow, hold on. When you spend a discipline point, you can choose a willing creature within 5 feet that is large or smaller. You move them, so they're using your movement speed, which, mind you, as a 10th level monk, you have plus 20 feet of movement, so probably at least 50 feet of movement, and you're dashing and disengaging at the same time, so your movement speed at this point is probably, conservatively 100 feet of movement right now, and you just pull them along, and they don't take any opportunity attacks. It doesn't take them their reaction to use it, and you just bring them along. That's awesome. That's really good. Was that D10 at level 10? I thought it was... It's D8 at level 10. Here it is. Look, 10. It's a D8. It comes up with your proficiency bonus. So at 11, it'll go up to a D10. So right now at level 10, it is 2D8. But if you jump up a level to level 11, you're now rolling 2D10 temporary hit points. Somebody brought up if you're playing with 2014 rules and you're doing a tabaxi and you have that like crazy ridiculous movement option, you can just pull somebody across the entire battlefield, or haste, right? 200 feet of movement and just bring somebody along for the ride. Very cool. Level 10, we also get self-restoration. Through sheer force of will, you can remove one of the following conditions from yourself at the end of each of your turns. Charmed, frightened, or poisoned. In addition, foregoing food and drink doesn't give you levels of exhaustion. I really like that last bit. That's a really cool, like, monk thematic thing. But also, charmed, frightened, or poisoned, it just ends. You pick one. Previously, it was like you had to use an action, I think, to end the charmed or frightened condition on yourself. Now it's just you just shed it at the end of your turn. You pick one, which is pretty cool. Yeah, correct. It's not on an enemy. It's a willing creature. So you're bringing an ally with you for Step of the Wind. A deflect energy. You can now deflect attack feature against attacks that deal any type of damage. So at 13, we can now deflect any type of damage, whether melee or ranged, whatever it is. Very cool. 14 is Disciplined Survivor. Proficiency in all saving throws, and whenever you make a saving throw and fail, you can spend a discipline point to re-roll it and take the second result. Perfect Discipline at 5. When you roll initiative and have 3 discipline points or fewer, you regain expended discipline points until you have 4. So, we have at level 2, Uncanny Metabolism, which is once per long rest. When you roll initiative points, you can get all, or roll initiative, you get all your discipline points back. But at 15, if you have less than 3, you automatically can get up to 4, which is a really nice, those two features together, plus the fact that you get all discipline points back on a short rest. Superior defense. Oh my god, they did my suggestions. They did them. This is great. All right, at level 18, superior defense. At the start of each of your turn, you can spend 3 discipline points to perfectly bolster yourself against harm for 1 minute, or until you have the incapacitated condition. During that time, you have resistance to all damage except force damage. Okay, so at the start of your turn, it's just triggered at the start of your turn. You don't have to use an action or anything to do it. You can just spend 3 discipline points to give yourself, for 1 minute, resistance to all damage except force damage. And then at level 20, they used my exact suggestion, which was to copy exactly what the Barbarian had for Dexterity and Wisdom. Your Dexterity and Wisdom scores increase by 4. The maximum for those scores is now 26. That is exactly what I've been suggesting for years, and it's here. That's pretty cool. So notice an interesting point. Hang on. Give me 1 sec, folks. Be right back. All right. Sorry about that. Let's jump back in. Okay. So I saw a lot of your comments. Yeah, if you manage to score yourself a 26 AC, you'll have a 26 in both dexterity and wisdom at level 20. You will have a 24 base AC with no anything else, which is still pretty nuts. All right. One thing I wanted to point out that I was starting to talk about, but there is no more immunity to poison and disease. There used to be immunity to poison and the poison condition at level 10. They have since removed that. And then the only subclass that we have in here is Warrior of the Hand, which is the open palm or open hand monk from the past, which says now has the Addle option to prevent creatures from making opportunity attacks. Wholeness of Body now allows you to regain hit points without expending discipline points. Fleet Step now allows you to take the Step of the Wind option alongside other bonus actions. And Quivering Palm now allows you the option to replace one of your attacks with the action to end the reverberations on the creature. To compensate for this flexibility, the cost and damage of the feature has been adjusted. So, Open Hand technique, whenever you hit a creature with an attack granted by Flurry of Blows, you can impose one of the following effects. Addle, they can't make opportunity attacks. Push, they must succeed on a strength saving throw or be pushed 15 feet away from you. Or Topple, they must succeed on a dexterity saving throw or have the prone condition. Now note, they don't require additional expenditures. They're just when you use Flurry of Blows, which is the one discipline point usage. Wholeness of Body, level 6. As a bonus action, you roll your martial arts die. You regain a number of hit points equal to the number rolled plus your wisdom modifier. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier and regain all uses when you finish a long rest. That's nice as a bonus action, but it's not a massive heal. So I'm not like a huge fan of it. I think it could be a little bit more, but either way. Fleet Step at level 11. When you take a bonus action other than Step of the Wind, you can also use the Step of the Wind as part of that bonus action. That's pretty interesting. So you could get the benefits of Step of the Wind and Flurry of Blows. The only thing it doesn't specify is which version of Step of the Wind. Like, do you get the one that gives you the dash and disengage version? Or do you have to spend the discipline point for that? I don't know. But, yeah, you regain... Not having a discipline point usage for Wholeness of Body is nice. I'll agree. But that's the sort of change, right? You're not expending discipline points to use Wholeness of Body. It's just wisdom modifier times per long rest. But the heal is kind of minimal. But I guess, you know, what are you going to do? It's kind of like a second wind almost. But not quite as much because it doesn't have a static number like your monk level. You could probably make it your monk level plus your wisdom modifier, or your monk level plus your martial arts die. Or, you know, 2 rolls of your martial arts die, but either way. And then lastly, we have Quivering Palm. When you hit a creature with an unarmed strike, you can spend 4 discipline points to start these imperceptible vibrations, which last for a number of days equal to your monk level. The vibrations are harmless unless you use your action to end them. Alternatively, when you take the attack action on your turn, you can replace one of the attacks with this action. To use this action, you and the target must be on the same plane of existence. When you use this action, the target must make a Constitution saving throw, taking 10d12 force damage on a failed save or half as much on a success. You can only have one creature under this effect at a time. So it is still a ton of force damage, but it's not like the OG where you just instantly kill them or they take a bunch of damage. So it is what it is. It is also, as you're pointing out in the chat, only 4 points to activate it, which isn't crazy. Our Addle, Push, and Topple once per turn. Whenever you hit a creature with a Flurry of Blows, you can impose one of the following. So if you have, level 10, Heightened Discipline, where you can do 3 Flurry of Blows, you could, in theory, do all 3 of these, if you wanted, with each hit. It's not limited to once per turn, it's just whenever you hit a creature with an attack granted by Flurry of Blows. Eventually, yeah, when you hit level 15, you will always go into combat with 4 discipline points, so you will always have enough to do Quivering Palm, which is pretty cool. But yeah, to your point, if they fail the strength saving throw, you can knock 3 people back 15 feet with Flurry of Blows and still have your action, by the way. All right, let's head into spells now. Class tags. A spell's description contains one or more tags, wizard, etc. Design spell updates here. Conjure animals, conjure celestial, conjure elemental, conjure fey, conjure minor elemental, and conjure woodland beings have all been redesigned to differentiate them from the summoning spells from Tasha's Cauldron, which will appear in the 2024 Player's Handbook. Cure Wound healing has increased to 2d8, and the healing improves by 2d8 at higher levels. Font of Moonlight is a new level 4 spell for bards and druids. Healing Word is now 2d4 and up by 2d4 at higher levels. Massive improvements for Healing Word and Cure Wounds. Mass Cure Wounds now heals 5d8 instead of 3d8, and Mass Healing Word now heals for 2d4 instead of 1d4. Power Word Fortify is a new spell for bards and clerics, and Starry Wisp is a new cantrip for bards and druids. Conjure Animals for Druid and Ranger, concentration up to 10 minutes. You summon nature spirits that take the form of a large swarm of spectral animals in an unoccupied space you can see within range. The swarm lasts for the duration, and you choose the animal form of the spirit, such as wolves, serpents, or birds. When a creature hostile to you enters a space within 10 feet of the swarm for the first time on a turn or starts its turn there, you can make a melee spell attack against that creature. On a hit, the target takes radiant damage equal to 2d10 plus your spellcasting modifier. You have advantage on strength saving throws while you're within 10 feet of the swarm, and when you move on your turn, you can also move the swarm up to 30 feet, and the damage goes up. So it's not just animals like constrictor snakes or anything. It's a swarm that you cast as an action. It lasts for the duration, and you can move it. So when a creature enters the swarm space within 10 feet of the swarm, enters a space within 10 feet of the swarm or starts their turn there, you can just make a free AB attack for 2d10 radiant damage plus your spellcasting modifier. You get advantage on strength saving throws while you're within 10 feet, and whenever you move, you can also move it, which is nice. Conjure Celestial, 10 minutes concentration. You summon the protective presence of a celestial spirit, which manifests as a pillar of divine light that shines in a 10-foot radius, 40-foot high cylinder centered on a point within range. Until the spell ends, bright light fills the cylinder, and when you move on your turn, you can also move the cylinder up to 30 feet. When a creature enters the cylinder for the first time on a turn or starts its turn there, they get the following benefits. A creature that isn't undead or a construct regains hit points equal to 4d12 plus your spellcasting modifier. A creature healed by this light can only be healed once per casting. When a creature enters the turn, you can bathe them in one of the features. Or Searing Radiance. The creature must make a dexterity saving throw or take 8d12 radiant damage or half on a success. It goes up by a d12 each for each slot above 7. So this now just calls down basically a pillar of light that can either heal people or hurt them. Conjure Elemental. Summon an elemental spirit that fills a 10-foot cube and is composed of air, earth, fire, or water, your choice. When a creature hostile to you moves within 5 feet of the spirit, it can make a melee attack against them. On a hit, it does 8d8 damage, either bludgeoning, cold, fire, or lightning, depending on the spirit. If the target is larger or smaller, it is also pulled into the cube and has the restrained condition. At the start of each of its turns, the target must make a strength saving throw against your spell save DC. On a success, it frees itself. On a failure, it takes 48 damage of the same attack and remains restrained there. You can only have one creature restrained at a time. That's actually pretty useful because it gets like almost reactionary attacks. Almost as soon as the target gets close, it can hit them and then pull them in. That's pretty cool. Conjure Fey. It's a Fey creature. When a spirit appears, you can immediately make one spell attack against... when it appears, it can immediately make one spell attack against a creature within 5 feet of it. On a hit, it takes psychic damage equal to 3d12 plus your spellcasting ability modifier. It must make a wisdom saving throw or be frightened until the start of your next turn. As a bonus action on your later turns, you can teleport the spirit to an unoccupied space within 30 feet and repeat the attack against a creature within 5 feet of it. So this one's interesting. The Conjure Fey gets an attack. Conjure Minor Elementals. You summon elementals in a 15-foot radius around you until the spell ends. Any attack you make deals an extra 2d8 damage when you hit a creature within 15 feet of you. The damage is either bludgeoning, cold, fire, or lightning. In addition, the ground within 15 feet of you is difficult terrain for your enemies. So this is almost like a Spirit Guardians for druids and wizards, which is kind of nice. And then again, when you upcast it, the damage goes up by 2d8, and the difficult terrain increases by 5 feet for each slot level above 4. It says all these spells in the chat here will be canceled and go back to the original. These make no sense. Yeah, it's very odd. Well, the thing is, they put in all of the summoning spells from Tasha's Cauldron, which are much more, they're better handled because they give you stat blocks and make it easier to understand instead of like, conjure animals. Your DM has the stat block. Talk to them and maybe they'll let you conjure what you want. Like, that's how those are worded. These are much more, like, they're trying to differentiate them from the summoning spells, but also you might just cut all of these spells entirely in favor of the summoning spells, but they're trying to make them unique. They're not bad. It's just when you compare them to their original, it's weird. And then lastly, Conjure Woodland Beings. Again, this is a 10-foot radius for druids and rangers. Until the spell ends, each creature you choose that enters a space within 10 feet of you or starts its turn there must make a wisdom saving throw or take 5d8 force damage or half on a success. In addition, you can take the disengage action as a bonus action for the spell's duration. That is so weird. It's such a weird choice. But they're distinct from the originals. I just don't particularly like them. Again, Cure Wounds, as we saw, is now 2d8, which is pretty awesome. Bard, Cleric, Druid, Paladin, and Ranger all get Cure Wounds. Heals for 2d8. We have Font of Moonlight, a new Bard and Druid spell. Level 4, a range of self-action, concentration for 10 minutes. A cool light wreathes your body, emitting bright light in a 20-foot radius, dim light in another 20. Until the spell ends, you have resistance to radiant damage, and your melee attacks deal an extra 2d6 radiant damage on a hit. In addition, immediately after you take damage from a creature you can see within 60 feet of you, you can use your reaction to force that creature to make a Constitution saving throw. On a failure, they are blinded until the end of your next turn. That is extremely powerful for the Moon Druid to have because they can cast this spell in wild shape form, which just gives them extra damage with their melee attacks and a potential reactionary blind. Again, Healing Word, big improvement. 2d4 plus spellcasting modifier is huge. I think it definitely bumps up healing quite a bit. A lot of people complain about the lack of power of healing in 5th edition. This is pretty nuts. Healing Word and Cure Wounds, as well as the change to Mass Cure Wounds and Mass Healing Word. Big shifts there. Very cool. Power Word Fortify, a new Bard and Cleric spell for level 7. You speak a word of power that fortifies up to 6 creatures within range. It bestows 120 temporary hit points divided equally amongst those 6 creatures. That's crazy. I like that. And then lastly, we have Starry Wisp, a brand new cantrip for bards and druids with a range of 60 feet. Make a ranged spell attack against the target. On a hit, the target takes a d8 radiant damage until the end of your next turn. It emits dim light in a 10-foot radius and can't benefit from the invisible condition. And then until the end of your next turn. Yeah. So this is essentially a cantrip damaging fairy fire for a single target, which is pretty cool. And the damage increases at cantrip scaling levels. I really like Starry Wisp a lot. I think it's pretty cool. All right, then we get into feats. They said they made a lot of feats changes here. Ability score improvement. General feat prerequisite level 4+. Increase 1 ability score of your choice by 2, or 2 ability scores of your choice by 1. You can increase an ability score above 20 using this feat. However, if you're at least level 19, the maximum increases to 22. Ah, there it is. That's explaining why the Barbarian and the Monk Capstone allows you to get an ability score up to 26 now. So it's still the same 1 by 2 or 2 by 1, but if you're at least level 19, that maximum increases to 22. There you go. We have the weapons here. Let's see. Do we see any major changes? I don't see. I mean, this is going to be. Are they just going to tell us? Because it's going to be a lot if I have to read through every single one here. I see no major changes off the top of my head. Crossbow, dart, short bow, sling, battle axe, flail, glaive. Yeah, no design notes, so it should be the same. That's what I'm thinking, yeah. The blowgun is back? Was the blowgun? Didn't they get rid of the blowgun? They bring it back? That might be the change. Um, Trident got its increased damage there, which matches more like, um, okay. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything too crazy. So, all right, we'll move on. Um, okay. Let's see. Heavy, light, thrown, blah, blah, blah. Mastery properties. I'm not seeing any major changes here. They're not giving me design notes, so I assume we're good. I'm also not seeing... They said something at the start. And we're just going to watch your eyes here. I'm going to scroll up to the top. Oh, you know what? That was here. New spells, revisions to existing spells and weapons. Revised version of the ability score improvement fee. Updated rules glossary. So it doesn't actually show any changes to the weapons listed. This might not be for the focus of this stream. I might have to do a deep dive after the fact and read through to make sure there's not any changes here. It lists it there, but I'm not seeing design notes to tell me otherwise. All right. And then we have all this. I'm not seeing any... This, I guess, is the newest rules glossary. You will use this now in place of anything you've had previously. Let's take a look at grappled, though, because this was the change, right? While grappled... okay. Well, actually, it's not the grapple. While grappled, your speed is 0. Disadvantage on attack rolls against any target other than the grappler. The grappler can drag you when it moves. 1 extra foot of movement if you're tiny, or 2 or more sizes smaller than the grappler. Escaped. While grappled, you can use your action to make a athletics or acrobatics check against the grapple escape DC, ending the condition on yourself. The condition also ends if the grappler has the incapacitated condition. Okay. Nothing crazy here. No things to tell us otherwise. Then they have something new for shove? Or is that just part of unarmed strike? All right, let's look at unarmed strike because they mentioned the changes for the monk. An unarmed strike is a melee attack that involves using part of your body. Whenever you use your unarmed strike, choose one of the following options for its effect. Damage, it does the damage, right? Okay. Grapple, the target must succeed on a strength or dexterity saving throw, or it has the grappled condition. The DC is equal to your strength modifier. Again, monks can now use dexterity modifier in place of strength. The grapple is possible only if the target is no more than 1 size larger than you, and if you have a free hand to grab it. Or shove, it says the target must succeed on a strength or dexterity saving throw. It chooses and be pushed either 5 feet away or be knocked prone. Again, the DC normally is based off of your strength modifier, but now monks can make this based off their dex modifier. The shove is possible only if the target is no more than 1 size larger than you. I think that's it. So, there you go, folks. There is the video, which is... How long is this video? Oh, 41 minutes. I think I'm probably going to have to take another break. I don't know if I could do 40... Even if I put it at 2 times speed, that's 20 minutes. Excuse me. So, yeah, we'll have to... You know what? Let me make a phone call quick, and then I'll take one quick break, and then we'll dive in to the video here. So give me 1 second again, and I'll play some music for you guys this time. I forgot to do it last time. Although my Stream Deck is not working, so I have to fix that. Anyway, be right back. All right, let's dive into the video. Uh, hang on. I think if I do this, will this work? I don't know if this still works anymore. Nope. I guess my chats. Oh, they are working. There you go. For those of you asking about the music, it's Ben Briggs's Twitch Jam album. It's an older album, but it's solid. I love the music. I'm a big chiptune music fan. It also made a lot more sense when I would stream video games a lot, but either way. All right, let's dive in to this Unearthed Arcana video. Let's see, we'll start at 1.5. We'll see how we do. Again, I apologize for those of you watching it after the fact, but I'll make breakdown videos, I promise. I'm also like a couple days out from a convention, so I usually get really, really motivated to make a ton of videos because I should be packing. So expect a lot of content from me over the next couple days. So, here we go.
Hello everyone, today we're talking about Unearthed Arcana 8, and we are revisiting a number of classes and subclasses, so we have a bunch of revisions to the current UA.
Yeah, so this time we return to 3 classes that people have already had a chance to dig into, the Barbarian, the Druid, and the Monk. And we dug into the feedback we got on all 3, and most of what was going on in the 3 classes.
Hang on, guys. I'm getting a phone call. All right. Sorry about
pretty
that.
solid, especially also in the subclasses. But still, there was more we wanted to get out into the world with these 3 classes to get people's feedback on them. In addition to these 3 classes, we also have some revised spells and even a new spell or 2 for people to try out in this Unearthed Arcana.
Okay.
But yeah, let's dive into the Barbarian first.
Yeah, let's go to the wait, they don't get a spell? Yeah, how's the Barbarian doing?
So the Barbarian overall is doing really well, but in the last round of playtest feedback, it was clear that there were a few pain points still in the class.
I didn't think so, but I like what I see.
Some of the new features that we have introduced through this process in other classes. So people saw some of the new functionality in the Rogue and in the Fighter and elsewhere in our class design. And the feedback we got basically was, what about the Barbarian? We heard you. And so we have come back this time with a Barbarian that you're going to be familiar with. Most of what the class has been doing for the past few Unearthed Arcanas, it's still doing here, but with several critical changes. One, having to do with Rage, is we've now changed the Rage feature so that you always regain an expended use of Rage on a short rest. Playtesters rightly pointed out that over this process, we've made sure that every class has a good reason to take a short rest, except for the core Barbarian. Some of our Barbarian subclasses have had for a while good reasons to take short rests, but the core class didn't have a powerful reason for it, and so now we've addressed that. We've made it so that the Barbarian will get a Rage back on every short rest that they take. But we went further. We have seen for a while that feedback on the Brutal Critical feature that has been in the Barbarian since 2014 has had sort of a shaky reception. And part of that is, while people like dealing more damage when they crit, there's the concern on, but am I ever going to actually crit? Now, a decade ago when we designed Brutal Critical was meant to pair with Reckless Attack, because if a Barbarian activates Reckless Attack and is attacking with advantage, because of the advantage, the Barbarian has a higher chance of scoring a critical hit. That interaction, what we have found, is too subtle for some people. They're not seeing that Reckless Attack sets up Brutal Critical. But
who's not seeing that?
Even more importantly, whether a person saw that interaction or not, the D20 is fickle.
Right.
And And having
Accurate.
anything rely on a crit occurring
Right.
without us increasing the chance that a critical will occur, as we have done, say, in the champion subclass in the fighter,
Right.
it can be dicey, especially if someone has the luck I have. Because usually what advantage means for me, especially when I'm playing, given my bad luck, is, well, I got to roll a 4 and a 3.
Yeah.
Or maybe this time I rolled an 8 and a 9.
Right.
And so we wanted to make sure that the barbarian had something at the levels that were previously occupied by brutal critical, had something that was going to be more reliably exciting. And so we have replaced brutal critical at all 3 of the levels where it appeared previously with a brand new feature called Brutal Strike. Brutal Strike, like what we did in the Rogue, where the Rogue now got a little toy box of options interacting with sneak attack, Brutal Strike is a new bundle of options for the barbarian that, in this case, are based on reckless attack. Essentially, what that lets you do is, if you've decided to fight recklessly, you now have the option, using the Brutal Strike feature, of foregoing the advantage that it gave you to deal more damage, and to potentially also add on a carry-on effect, whether it's to hurl a person far away,
Nice.
lower their speed, and then at higher levels you get more options where you can lower their defenses, you can make it so they can't take opportunity attacks because they're so addled by your weapon strike, that sort of thing. And so you now have this choice of what's more important to me. Simply making sure I hit, in which case I want to take the advantage of my attack roll that reckless attack normally gives me. Or am I pretty sure I'm going to hit, and so I'm willing to accept that reckless attack makes me easier to hit, but I'm going to accept that and also forego the advantage to deal more damage if I do hit and add on one of these carry-on effects. Now, what is really juicy that we have found in our
Barbarian Gambler.
Well, but it's also really juicy because these carry-on effects pair with weapon masteries.
Oh, nice.
So the barbarian could hit somebody as long as the reckless attack is active and have one of these brutal strike effects kick in along with the effect of their weapon mastery, giving the barbarian, once you start pairing off those various abilities, a host of different tactical situations that the barbarian player can create by combining all of these different options.
I like that you can choose to play as simply as you want, or you can get into the complexity of, like, okay, and this is all flavored very much for the barbarian, but I keep seeing this in UA of, like, giving each of these, the melee classes a little bit more options, but are flavored specifically for what your fantasy is, like for being a barbarian.
Yes.
And that very much plays into that.
Exactly. Yeah. And we wanted to make sure that these options were barbarian specific. So like the barbarian can hurl people way farther away than most non-magical abilities can. And the barbarian
makes
can
sense.
slow a person down more than most non-magical abilities can, so on and so forth.
Very on theme.
Yes. We've also made a change to persistent rage, where it now restores all uses of your rage once per long rest. And we've also made it so that your rage is a little less easy to shut off, even more so than before.
Okay, good, nice. Well, let's talk about the Path of the World tree. I'm rather fond of this one. It was powerful.
Yes, and so thankfully, Path of the World tree got a thumbs up the last time we sent it out. But definitely it could use some massaging, not surprising given that it's a brand new subclass. And so we have done some of that work here in the new version that appears with the revised Barbarian.
Some of you are saying it in the chat, and it's true. There's also, let me just ask, for those of you watching later on YouTube, would you prefer if I had the YouTube chat on screen? Because I can do that. I just haven't, and I am casually talking over to it, but if those of you watching after the fact would find it beneficial, now if you're watching it on YouTube, you can't actually see the chat. I think I have chat replay on so you can see it as it's happening. But if it would be more beneficial to have it like above my head or off to the side, let me know and I could do that going forward. But yeah, if you're watching it on like a live replay, I think the chat populates or can populate. Anyway, that being said, yeah, they're adding a lot more versatility to the Barbarian. And I didn't even think about when we were going through it. When I make my shorter kind of condensed version of this video just talking about the Barbarian, it's worth mentioning that all of the pushing and stuff we talked about pairs with weapon mastery. So you can knock people back even further than before. And I like that, right? It feels good for a Barbarian to hit somebody and send them reeling or limit their movement because it feels like that's a thing they should do. While the fighter might have more versatility in how they use their weapons and like what they can swap and switch and this and that, that's good for them. But the Barbarian just being able to just knock somebody for a loop and send them flying feels good to me. And that's a good change in my opinion.
What we've done is we've gone through each of the subclasses' features and tuned them up in various ways. So the vitality of the tree feature now provides the barbarian temporary hit points. We also increased the range of the branches of the tree feature. And also, when the barbarian uses that feature on somebody else to say, no, no, no,
Yeah.
come right back over here, the barbarian also now has the ability to zero out their speed, to make it harder
Yikes.
for them to then immediately run away.
Right,
so
right.
no, it's like, no, you are coming here and you are staying for a little while.
Perfect.
We have also changed both battering routes and travel along the tree. And we have clarified the battering routes, that what it allows you to do with weapon masteries, the weapon masteries it gives you are on top of whatever weapon mastery you are already using with that weapon.
Gotcha.
So again,
You can use both at the same time.
you can
Just wanted to point out there's a comment here in chat from Ryan Haynes who says, if you're a monk, notice that monk did ditch weapon mastery, but you can still get weapon mastery via the weapon mastery feat. And yes, as far as I can tell, having Nick as your weapon master from the weapon master feat does mean that you could make 6 attacks as a monk at level 10, meaning that you could do 2 attacks with a weapon or whatever, and then make a Nick attack using the Nick weapon mastery, and then make 3 unarmed strikes with flurry of blows at level 10. So yes, it does appear that there's the potential that a monk could make 6 attacks at level 10 in this new version, which is pretty nuts.
carry, again, talk about stacking carry-on effects, and then travel along the tree. We've redesigned to make it so that the barbarian can now teleport themselves, and then once per long rest, teleport themselves along with other people. And so they can do the self-teleport more often,
Right.
but then once per day they can also have a bigger, all right, now we're all moving someplace else as we travel along the mystical branches of the world tree that connects to all of the worlds of the multiverse.
Well, let's move on to the druid. I actually got to playtest this, so I'm excited.
Also, if we want to go real nuts, technically you could take 2 levels of fighter and do 8 attacks at level 10 if you action surge. So I think that works. You might even be able to do 9 potentially with Nick. I'm not sure if Nick allows you to work again with action surge, but you could definitely do at least 8, if not 9 attacks as a 10th level monk with 2 levels of fighter.
So the main thing that we're doing in this version of the Druid is actually presenting a revised version of the Circle of the Moon.
Yeah.
But we figured while showing off a revised version of the subclass, we would also make some tweaks to the base class. And those tweaks are all in wild shape. So what people are going to see is the Druid that they saw in the previous Unearthed Arcana that the Druid appeared in. But this time, you're going to be able to know more beast forms than you could before. And we have heard people's desire to have more resilience in wild shape, even if they're not a member of the Circle of the Moon.
Right.
And so wild shape now for everybody gives you some temporary hit points when you adopt a beast form. And we also heard people and they requested that species traits of the Druid not carry over into beast form. So
Who was asking for that? Which one of you did that?
those no longer do carry over.
Okay.
So those are the 3 main changes there to wild shape. Now, there's more going on in Circle of the Moon.
Yes, there is.
So we keep refining and refining and refining, trying to get Circle of the Moon to the place I think that will really resonate with people who love this subclass. And so one of the things we've done is first introduced a set of spells that the Druid can cast while in wild shape, and also this set of spells that the Druid always has prepared. So previously, we'd wanted to give the Circle of the
I didn't even think about the always prepared part. That's actually a really nice feature for Circle of the Moon. Those spells can be cast while in wild shape form, but they're also just always prepared for you, which is a nice thing to have. So you're just getting a cantrip for free. You're getting all those spells auto-prepared, which frees up more room on your spell list. And with the tweaks to healing, Cure Wounds in animal form doing 2d8 extra healing is pretty nice.
the Moon Druid some spellcasting ability while in wild shape, and we did that by allowing the Druid to cast abjuration spells while in a beast form. That was intended to allow the Druid to cast healing spells that are abjurations and any other protective magic that they have that belongs to the abjuration school of magic, not the aberration.
You have my
school.
attention.
That would be an entirely different subclass.
Aberration druid confirmed.
That approach of allowing the Druid to cast abjuration spells just wasn't landing for people, and understandably, partly because many people have a hard time even keeping in their head, well, what are all the abjuration spells that I might want to cast? Druid players are not as accustomed to caring about spell school as, say, wizard players. And so we realized we need to come at this from a different direction in a way that feels better specifically for the Druid. And we also wanted to make it so that there would be a suite of spells that the Circle of the Moon Druid has access to always, without having to worry about making sure they've even prepared something that they're capable of casting while they're in a beast shape. And so we've solved that by giving Circle of the Moon Druids this list of spells that they always have prepared, and that they can cast whether they're in their regular druid form or in beast form.
We've got pretty exciting spells in here that I love.
So the spells are a mix of things from Cure Wounds, because just like in 2014 and in our previous Unearthed Arcanas over the past year and a half, we want the Circle of the Moon Druid to be able to do some healing while they're in beast form. And that's whether to heal themselves like they could in 2014 or heal others. So one of the things we're doing here is trying to shift things so that the Circle of the Moon Druid can also heal other people while in.
I see what you guys are saying, the fact that if they kept the species traits and you played with other things, you could be like an Aarakocra with a 60-foot fly speed, but be an octopus that could fly. I actually think that's hilarious, and I'm sad whoever discussed. I think the main thing was they were talking. I mean, you're not wrong in saying that, but like, you know, if you, like I said, the simpler things would be like resistances to damage, or like now I'm a bear with a breath weapon. But yeah, flying octopus would be pretty cool, honestly.
A beast shape. But this has also given us the opportunity to make sure you actually have some moon-themed magic always available to you when you're in beast form. So you're going to always have access to Moonbeam and be able to cast it while you're in beast form. You're also going to be able to cast, once you get high enough level, Dawn. Because when the sun rises, that usually means the moon is going down, but the moon is also often still up at that point. We also give you Vampiric Touch.
Yes.
And we give you 2 brand new spells that appear in this UA. A new cantrip called Starry Wisps, which is now available to both bards and druids, because we not only wanted a sort of night.
I also totally missed it. Starry Wisp is an attacking cantrip. That's the first access, I think, to an attacking cantrip that bards have ever had. Almost every bard-based cantrip that's in the game is a saving throw. This might be the first time bards get an attacking cantrip, which is very cool. And I stand by the fact that every spellcasting class should have at least 1 saving throw based cantrip and 1 attacking cantrip. Because sometimes it just sucks to cast a cantrip as like one of the things you can do, and they save against it and it does nothing. So having an attacking cantrip makes it feel like the failure's on you, not on the DM's success, if that makes sense.
Sky-themed cantrip.
Produce Flame, did I say, if I said Druid, then I meant Bard. But yes, I don't believe Bards have Produce Flame. Bards always had like Vicious Mockery and like Thunder Clap and stuff.
For this subclass, but for Bards and Druids in general. And we also wanted to give both of those classes another ranged cantrip option, because both the Bard and the Druid are a little light on ranged cantrip options. We also have a new spell for the Druid called Fount of Moonlight, and I'm looking forward to people giving that spell a try. So all of that combined means that the Circle of the Moon Druid is going to have a variety of sky and moon and star and sun
and
spells.
Vampiric Touch.
Well,
and creepy.
Yeah, to be able to harness while they are in their beast form.
Perfect.
But wait, there's more.
Yeah.
We also have made it so that your base AC when you're in beast form can be even higher than before. So you now have the option that when you adopt a beast form to simply have an AC that equals 13 plus your wisdom modifier. We're doing this because often the stat blocks that the druid player will select might have a pretty lousy AC, especially for a druid who is higher level.
Yeah.
What this helps ensure is that the druid has an option at a higher level of adopting an AC that is more appropriate for them. You're still going to get a juicy number of temporary hit points as a Circle of the Moon Druid, and also you're going to be able to, later on, up at 14th level, simply deal more damage with your beast form's attacks. One of the things that we're addressing is that many stat blocks that are primarily designed for the DM's use often do not have a sufficient amount of damage output for a druid of a high level adopting those forms. And so we've built in the 14th level feature for this subclass just a straight up damage boost where you can deal some extra radiant damage every time you hit with one of your beast form's attacks.
That's fantastic. That's it?
That's it.
Druids don't get any more than temporary hit points, more spells, more damage?
It's awesome.
So we have some changes to the monk as well.
So the monk,
all right, here we go.
who's
Monk
now
time,
appearing for
baby.
the second time in this Unearthed Arcana series, has many, many tweaks. And we got fantastic feedback on the class the last time, along with feedback on the Warrior of the Hand, which is the subclass that appears in this UA. And we have taken all of that feedback and gone through the whole class and have made quite a few changes, many of them aimed at addressing the discipline point
Yep.
issue that many people have had with the class, the sense that the class simply does not have enough points
Right.
to spend to keep up with other classes. And looking at the underlying math of everything that the class does, we agree with that feedback. And that's why we have done this deep dive into the class and looked for places where we were charging the monk discipline points for something that we didn't need to be charging for.
Right.
And also, one of the other things we were looking out for is making sure the class does not have too many competing bonus action options.
Yeah.
Because that was another big piece of feedback we got. Feedback, again, that we agree with, that the monk, more than many other classes, had sort of a mountain of bonus action options competing with each other.
Yeah.
So we wanted to make it so that the monk could engage with their fun gameplay without feeling like they're constantly out of discipline points and they can never use all of these bonus actions that are being
constantly
available.
threading through the bonus action all the time.
Yeah. And so that said, just like any class that has a limited resource, monks will still have to shepherd their discipline points, and there are still multiple bonus action options. But we've done our best to make it so that it is easier and more fun to engage with both of those resources, discipline points on one hand and bonus actions on the other. So how about I dive into the specific changes?
Yeah, go ahead.
Now, before I get to any of the changes related to either of those big things, we did something else big for the class, and that is we brought back the notion of monk weapons to the martial arts feature. People really missed having their martial arts die interacting with their weaponry, and so we brought that back. And so now you not only have the notion of monk weapons, but they are benefiting from that martial arts die. Now, with the host of changes that we've made to the class, including the restoration of monk weapons, there was something that needed to go, and that was weapon mastery. Many people correctly pointed out in the previous playtest version that while weapon mastery was neat in the monk, it did not serve the same role that it does in other classes. Here's what I mean by that. In other classes, weapon mastery provides a crucial layer of fun tactical options that in many cases the class simply didn't have before. I'm thinking here of the barbarian, I'm thinking of the rogue, I'm thinking of the fighter. The monk, though, already had a lot of effect options to layer onto their attacks. And weapon mastery, especially being tied specifically to weapons, was almost what I think of sometimes as a hat on a hat. It's the monk already had a hat. It didn't need a hat put on top of the hat it was already wearing.
Right.
And given that we wanted to restore monk weapons and all of that, and give the monk a lot of juicy candy elsewhere, again, something had to give. But I don't think people are going to miss weapon mastery in this class, given everything else that's going on now. So to start with, the bonus unarmed strike that monks get as a part of their martial arts feature, you can now simply do as a bonus action. It's no longer tied to anything else. Before, the monk had to jump through some hoops to be able to make a bonus action on our
This is a nice, very nice change.
They had to have used the attack action, and that attack action had to, include X, Y, or Z. And if they met all those criteria, then and only then they could make an extra unarmed strike as a bonus action. We got rid of all the hoops. The monk simply, on any of their turns, can make an unarmed strike as a bonus action.
Nice.
So that immediately gives the monk a tremendous amount of flexibility that they didn't have before. We have also now made it so that your dexterity not only gets to be used for all of your unarmed strikes for your to hit roll and your damage, we've also made it so that the monk can now use their dexterity to set the DCs of their shove and grapple attempts. And so monks now no longer have to rely on strength to set those DCs. They can rely on their dex.
Perfect.
And so that is going to make monks have an easier time being very effective grapplers as well as shovers.
Nope, very
now
good.
let's talk about Monk's Discipline. This feature was previously called Martial Discipline in Unearthed Arcana. And here we see our first examples of us reducing some of the discipline point taxes that were on the monk. So previously, Flurry of Blows and Patient Defense and Step of the Wind all required discipline points. Flurry of Blows still does, but Patient Defense and Step of the Wind now each have an option within them to do something without spending any discipline points. So for instance, in Patient Defense, you can now take the disengage action as a bonus action, no discipline point cost at all.
Nice.
In Step of the Wind, you can take the dash action as a bonus action, no discipline point cost at all. So now instead, what they each have is a discipline point option that makes it better. So let's say in Patient Defense, if you want for free, you can just disengage as a bonus action. Or you can spend a discipline point and you can take both the disengage and the dodge actions as a bonus action. So this now lets you really crank up your defense when you're in a super dangerous situation. Similarly, Step of the Wind allows you to spend the discipline point to take both the disengage and dash actions as a bonus action and have your jump distance doubled for the turn.
Okay, yeah.
So what we've made it is so that the the things that cost discipline points, those discipline points aren't providing you with the base functionality.
Yeah.
Instead, they're providing you with amped up functionality, which is even true of Flurry of Blows, if you think about it this way. Flurry of Blows now still costs a discipline point, and it's a discipline point that you spend to make 2 unarmed strikes as a bonus action. Remember, I mentioned that now monks can all, by default, make an unarmed strike as a bonus action. Flurry of Blows now allows you to spend a discipline point to make 2 unarmed strikes as a part of that bonus action, instead of just the 1 that all monks can do for free.
Because the cost really already is the bonus action. So spending the point is like just the extra oomph that you want.
Exactly.
And it does make it so much more tactical to be like, how much danger am I in right now? Am I just like disengage or just disengage and also dodge? Like how big is this threat? So it does. There's a nice scaling effect.
Absolutely. We have also now made it in Uncanny Metabolism that you.
This is a nice
initiative
feature too.
Not only regain some hit points, but also discipline points. Deflect attacks can now deflect melee attacks in addition to ranged attacks.
Oh, nice.
So good.
So
oh, wow.
Someone can come up and the monk can like swat their sword strike into themselves or somebody else.
That's amazing. I love it.
Next up, we have Stunning Strike, which we have heard that people would really love for it to still do something, even if the target succeeds on their saving throw. And so we've now made it so that when you use Stunning Strike, even if they succeed on their saving throw, the target is going to take some force damage.
Nice.
Again, it's not a lot of not a lot of force damage, but it fits the power fantasy of I'm hitting you so hard you can't do anything. And if you succeed and manage to shoulder that, I still get to like amp it up by like a little bit of damage, which is nice.
So that you always know you're going to get something
Yeah.
when you decide to use Stunning Strike. You might not succeed at stunning them, but you will at least succeed at still doing some nice extra damage. We have also made it so that a few of your features that before required bonus actions now don't require any kind of action at all. So for instance, Self-Restoration, which before required a bonus action to remove some undesirable conditions, you can now simply activate that feature at the end of your turn, no action required. We have also made it so that your Superior Defense also does not require any kind of action for you to activate. You can simply have it activate at the start of your turn. And we have also made Perfect Discipline, which gives back discipline points. We've made it a bit more generous in how it functions. And at 20th level, we now have a brand new feature called Body and Mind, which simply lets the
what I suggested for 3
crank up
years.
both their dexterity and wisdom scores up to a maximum that is nicely above 20. And so the monk gets to join the barbarian in having a capstone ability where they get to have a base ability higher than normal. And specifically the 2 ability scores that monks care most about, dexterity and wisdom.
Is that it?
Again, you can't say that it's just me, because probably a lot of other people said this, but my fix for the monk capstone for years has been to just make it marry and match exactly what the barbarian is. Just make it dex and wisdom as opposed to strength and con. And that would be perfect, and that's what they did, so I couldn't be happier with that change. I'm also, for what it's worth, if I bump into Jeremy at the con, at PAX Unplugged this weekend, I wonder, it'd be very cool to get that kind of validation, that like, hey, we heard that you suggested that, so we did it. Again, they probably won't tell me, and if they did, I probably couldn't tell you anyway. But still would be cool to think about.
So I haven't even gone into every single detail. There is so much here. So I recommend
Looking at the UA?
yes, people look very carefully at the design note on the base class that lists all of the main changes that we've made here. But there are also some tweaks in the Warrior of the Hand.
Todd told me that'd be fine too. They're both going to be there. I'm going to see them, I think, Thursday night. So we'll see.
We've made it so that the Wholeness of Body feature in the Warrior of the Hand doesn't require discipline points for its healing. The Addle option in the open hand technique no longer requires a saving throw. And Fleet of Step has been improved. And also Quivering Palm now interacts a little better with your other attacks. So again, a number of quality of life improvements here. Also you see again that continuing theme of looking for places where we can stop charging you discipline points unless it's necessary for us to. I think when people play both the Warrior of the Hand that's presented here along with the base class, you're going to see the monk that we've been seeing in our internal playtests, which really feels like the monk firing on all cylinders.
Right.
For some reason in this metaphor, the monk is now a car.
Yeah.
But it's a really fast car.
All I can say is what I really need to happen is for my friend Sean to run another campaign for me to play in, and He's run like 2 campaigns for me, and I played a monk in both of them, and I ruined his day as the monk in both of those campaigns. So now I need him to run another campaign for me to play this new version of the monk to see how much I can ruin it for him a third time.
That doesn't have to worry about action economy nearly as much. So yeah, okay, that's fantastic. So again, this is Unearthed Arcana. It is not the final form of anything we are doing. It is playtest material, but that final form eventually will be compatible with everything that's come since 2014 and with the 2024 core rulebooks. That's what we're leading up to, and to the books after that. This is all 5th edition. That's the point of all this. Even if you don't think the UA is like completely compatible right now, that's not the final form. So we're heading towards the 2024 rules.
Absolutely. And as we move from the playtest versions of various elements of the game, we dive into our finalization of those elements, and a part of that finalization is ensuring that they are indeed compatible with the adventures you already have for 5th edition, as well as for the material that is coming after. And that threading of the needle is a big part of the work that we're doing internally now, is making sure all the new options are super fun, but that they also will slot in nicely with the game that we're all already playing.
So we got some new spells.
Yes, so we have not only some new spells. I mentioned before the Fount of Moonlight and the Starry Wisp for the Druid, as well as for the Bard, but we also have some revised spells here. And those spells fall largely into 2 categories. Some healing spells, as well as some conjuration spells. Now, with the healing spells, a number of these spells are very highly rated when we look at satisfaction scores. Spells like Cure Wounds and Healing Word and Mass Healing Word. But we have also fairly consistently gotten the feedback that people would like some of that baseline healing to feel more impactful. And when we revisited the math of those healing options, there was room for them to grow. They can actually be more powerful without imbalancing the game. And so you see here playtest versions of Cure Wounds and Healing Word in particular, those 2 like baseline healing spells, both of which are more powerful than they were before, meant to give healers that sense that it is worthwhile to cast these spells. Because we have all experienced what some of our playtesters have pointed out for us, and we've experienced it in our own games, that feeling sometimes of, well, I just spent my action casting this healing spell, and then seconds later, all the healing I just did and more is undone. Now, that is always a risk in battle. I mean, that's
These changes to healing are like probably one of the biggest surprises I've seen from 5th edition, and it better make its way into the final version. These are massive improvements, and it's just so good. They really need to keep that. The doubling the amount is just so much better.
That's just how D&D combat works. But we want to make it so that there's at least a better chance that the healing that you did will help the person, gain a little bit of breathing room. And so that's what you're going to see here in these playtest versions of those spells. So I mentioned the other category of spell that we have made some revisions to, and that is a group of conjuration spells that in the 2014 Player's Handbook summoned various creatures to the battlefield to assist your group. Now, in the 2024 Player's Handbook, we are going to be including the summoning spells that we designed for Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Yeah. Those summoning spells were very popular, and they work extremely well as combat summons of, I need this fey creature or this undead creature or this aberrant creature to show up and help us now, and you have some customization options in those stat blocks. So all of those spells that appeared in Tasha's Cauldron that summoned creatures will be in the 2024.
Let's be honest. The summon spells from Tasha's Cauldron are better designed for combat summons. They're handled better. Their mechanics work better. They're just better for what they need to do with a lot less caveats and loopholes to jump through than the original conjuration spells from the 2014 Player's Handbook. The only problem is what they're dealing with now, which is they want to keep those 2014 spells there. Honestly, I don't think this is what we saw in the Unearthed Arcana. They're so all over the place. You could just call them, cut the conjure spells. I guess you probably need them because they fit like a niche in a conjuration school of magic. Cut those names and just name them something else and keep more or less the same mechanic, just change the name. And it probably would have done better than trying to shoehorn these names into these weird new spell effects.
Player's Handbook. But because those spells are moving over, it created a bit of an identity crisis then for the conjuration spells that were already there that also summoned creatures to the battlefield. And those spells have often created some gameplay headaches because of how open-ended they are in their 2014 form. For anyone who's not familiar with the 2014 version of those spells, it's basically like, choose a creature of this type at this CR, or multiple creatures of that type at this other CR.
There's some math.
Yes, so on and so forth. Those spells in many ways have been superseded by the Tasha's Cauldron summoning spells.
They absolutely
And so we wanted to come up with a new identity for those other spells that were in the 2014 book, because again, they're going to be accompanied by all those juicy summoning spells that have a stat block and a creature shows up and fights for you. So we have the summon spells from Tasha's, but then again, we have these other spells that all have a name of like conjure something, like conjure fae, conjure woodland beings, conjure animals. And so these new conjuration spells, rather than having a stat block that shows up, instead you conjure forth really cool magical effects that are themed to the type of spirit that you were conjuring forth. Those spells always involved conjuring a spirit forth. It's just before those spirits popped into a physical being that had a stat block. Again, that ground is now covered by the summoning spells.
Yeah.
That's what people associate summoning with, is I'm summoning this concrete thing here. So with these new conjuration spells, instead of summoning this concrete critter with a stat block, you conjure forth the spirit, but it stays in its spirit form and does neat things that wouldn't normally be done by that physical thing over there with a stat block. So if you have ever been playing a druid or a wizard and would love to have something at least a little reminiscent of, say, the cleric's spirit guardians,
Right.
Well, now you can, because we're letting some other of our spellcasters in on that fun of being able to conjure forth these spirits that stay in their spiritual form and assist you. And so what that now means is the druid, for instance, could summon a beast with the
We'll talk about them in a
Summon Beast
minute.
spell from Tasha, or could conjure forth some animal spirits to assist them, and you have very different effect options with those two tracks. Whether you're deciding, I want this physical buddy
we'll get to it.
show up,
We'll just change the
or
names.
Instead,
I'll show you.
I want a sort of spirit buddy or multiple spirit buddies to show up and instead create some kind of ongoing area effect that will assist me and my companions. So you now have, with this new approach, two very distinct paths that you can go down, and you can mix them up. As you prepare your spells, you can prepare both kinds of spells, and they now do very different things.
Nice. Any other spells?
There is also a new power word spell here.
Okay.
Yes, we wanted another power word spell like power word heal that was helpful rather than harmful, and so there is a new power word spell called power word fortify that bards and clerics get.
Oh, nice.
And it is a way to give a person a mountain of temporary hit points. So if you just want, I need you to be just super duper protected, that is what power word fortify is for.
Oh, that's cool. As always, people should playtest the material. We need your feedback. The best way to do that is to take the survey. Obviously, we are aware of social media and comments and stuff like that, but the best place is always the actual survey itself. Thank you.
Our team digs into those survey responses, and they have been immensely helpful as we have all walked this road together toward the revised core rulebooks.
All right. Thank you so much for telling us all
All right. So
about this stuff. I'm excited.
Thank you.
now let's take a look, because I wanted to point out a couple of things. Right. So and one thing that I didn't think of when we were talking. So first of all, here's power word fortify. What's interesting is it says you speak a word that fortifies up to 6 creatures within range. You could just choose yourself and boop yourself for 120 temporary hit points if you wanted. Because the hit points are divided equally among the spell's recipients. If you choose only yourself to be the spell's recipient, you just give yourself 120 temporary hit points, which is pretty funny to me. But anyway. Or, 60 to 2 people, depending on how you want to do it. But if we scroll up, let's just take a look at these names and just rename them real quick, right? So conjure animals. Right now it summons a swarm. The simplest thing you could do is just rename it to conjure swarm, right? And then it fixes the problem, right? Because it summons a swarm. It doesn't summon animals, it summons a swarm, right? Conjure swarm. Or ditch conjure as a name and just call it animal swarm. Swarm of animals. Just call it swarm. Swarm would be a good name, right? Perfectly fine, okay? Conjure celestial. It's not really, it's like an entity of light. You could call this celestial light, celestial emanation, celestial guardian. You could just call it, I don't know, whatever you want, but you don't have to name it Conjure Celestial. Basically, you're summoning a pillar of light. You could call it Celestial Pillar, right? It's literally just a pillar of light that heals people in it or harms people in it, your choice. Why call it Conjure Celestial? Like I said, it could just be called, like, you could call it Dawn if that wasn't already a spell in the game. Celestial Pillar, whatever. Okay, I don't know. Pillar of Light. Pillar of Light. Swords of Revealing Light. I don't know. Call it something, right? Okay. Conjure Elemental. Now, this thing makes a cube of elemental energy that can pull people in. You could just call this Elemental Surge, would probably be a reasonable name for this. Actually, I think I would just go with that. Don't even bother calling it Conjure Elemental. Elemental Surge makes sense to me. Sun Elemental Cube, right? That's also an option, right? Somebody said, sounds like Sunbeam, right? You could call it like, I mean, it is a pillar, right? It's just a pillar of light. You could call it Pillar of Light. Why overthink it, right? Conjure Elemental, like you said, Elemental Cube, Elemental Surge, whatever you want. All right, Conjure Fey. Now, this one, all it does is do psychic damage, basically, and an attack and a frighten. Honestly, you could ditch, like, what is it, Phantasmal Killer. Like, you could just replace that with this effect here, and it would be better. Or you could call it, like, I don't know, Psychic Strike, Psychic Surge, I don't know, stuff like this. You could change this, right? Now, Conjure Minor Elementals. This is essentially just Elemental Spirit Guardians. Why don't we just call it Elemental Guardian or Elemental Guardians, and that's just what it is. It's essentially Spirit Guardians, but for druids and wizards. And then Conjure Woodland Beings is also just basically like a higher level Spirit Guardians for druid and ranger. Why don't we just call it Woodland Guardians? And it's the same thing. I mean, simple, like, you get my point though, right? I'm not putting a lot of mental energy into thinking of these names, but keeping them with the names they have feels weird. It's just trying to shoehorn a name into a new effect when effectively the summon spells do everything that these do, just better. These are cool and unique, interesting spell effects. Just call them something different and it solves a lot of the problem. Mind Crush, excellent name for Conjure Fey, right? And you can even still keep them as conjuration spells, right? You could change these to evocation if you wanted. But basically, yeah, we're trying to shoehorn a new effect into a name. The name of the spell shouldn't be the determining factor. The spell effect should exist as a unique thing, and then you give it a fitting name, right? And I think that that's what we're at, right? This can just be some form of a swarm attack. This is some sort of light pillar attack, right? This is an elemental attack of some kind, just because it does elemental damage, right? It's air, fire, earth, or water. It doesn't have to be tied to conjuring an elemental. It's just whatever you want it to be. This is just a psychic strike of some kind. This is elemental spirit guardians, and this is woodland spirit guardians. So yeah, that's what I would do, is just change the names to better befit the new features. Keep the spells features that are here, because they're good spell effects. They provide a lot of something. You're giving effectively druids and wizards and druids and rangers something that rivals or does a similar effect to a spirit guardians that a cleric has, but you're now just allowing it to do something unique. And you're coming up with cool other attacks, right? The swarm attack has some cool abilities, right? And it also gives strength saving throws. The Conjure Celestial that we have here does healing or damage, which is nice. The Elemental has a damage and a restrain factor. And this one allows you to do an attack roll that does psychic damage, which could potentially crit, and has a fear effect. And like they all have the ability to move around. They're all very cool abilities. They just need to be renamed into a unique name that separates them from the original conjure spells. And you cut them in favor of the fact that you're including the summon spells, which are the new conjures, as it were. And these are just cool new spell effects. So yeah, that's what I say. Energy Cube, Elemental Cube. Right, all options. Mind Crush was a really cool concept for the Conjure Fae, right? There's a lot of awesome... it's pretty easy. Like I said, I just came up with a handful of things off the top of my head, but you could definitely take some time and redesign these. It's like the concept of changing Chill Touch to either become a different name or be a touch attack, right? So that it makes sense. Stuff like that. Anyway, this was an unexpected, unplanned video for today. So I hope you all enjoyed my take of this newest Unearthed Arcana 8. I will be making smaller parsed down videos, and I promise to actually do all of them, but I do have to get back and finish all of my coverage of all of the more recent books that have come out, like Monsters G through Z for Big B's and all the other stuff that I never got around to doing. I also want to take the time to sit down and chat with the folks from the Ninja Turtle and Other Strangeness RPG Kickstarter, because they've added a bunch of new interesting stretch goals, including the opportunity for a bunch of us to vote for new mutant animals we'd like to see be included in those books, which is pretty awesome. I'm really hoping I can get crab in there as an animal option, because I've been homebrewing a crab option for years for my own games. And then also, I'll just remind you that it is still Cyber Monday. So if you go back a little while and take a look at the video I did on Describe, they are still having 43% off for the first sign up of an annual subscription for any of the different Describe levels. So you can feel free to go check that out and use coupon code NerdImmersion at checkout to get 43% off. So anyway, I want to thank all of you for coming out and hanging out with me for the past 2 hours or so. If you're going to be at PAX Unplugged, come find me, say hi. I will have some swag there, as I always do. Anyway, I hope to see you all there. I'll also be doing some sort of informal get-together at some point. I haven't decided when. I will post about it, though. Yes, thank you. Drop a like if you haven't. The likes help drive up the content of these and put them in other people's algorithms and whatnot. So, anyway, thank you all so much for watching. And I'll see you next time.